talk professionally about each other's
Why
work.
don't we, listen, here's the thing, Peter.
Yeah.
You're stepping over a line.
In the heart of Hollywood, where reputations are everything and silence speaks louder than words, one man has quietly built a blacklist that few dare to cross. His name? Tom Cruise. To the world, he's the daredevil who dangles from skyscrapers and flies fighter jets at Mach speed, an unstoppable action star with an unshakable smile. But behind that megawatt charm lies a fortress of loyalty, control, and cold retribution. Those who've challenged him, publicly or privately, often find themselves erased, uninvited, or quietly blacklisted by the very machine that turned him into a billion-dollar icon. And today, we're pulling back the curtain. From A-list actors and beloved comedians to respected journalists and even his own ex-wife. These are the 6 people Tom Cruise reportedly can't stand, and the shocking reasons why. If you think Cruise only burns rubber in his films, think again. First up, it was meant to be a gothic masterpiece. But instead of chemistry, it sparked cold contempt. Here's why Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt will never share the screen again. In 1994, 2 of Hollywood's brightest stars came together for what should have been a genre-defining blockbuster, Interview with the Vampire. But what unfolded behind the scenes was far from cinematic magic. According to set insiders, Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt were anything but compatible. From the very first days of filming, tension simmered. Pitt, known for his laid-back demeanor and introspective style, reportedly found Cruise's energy overwhelming. Some even said suffocating. Meanwhile, Cruise, who approaches roles with near military intensity, was said to be frustrated by Pitt's cool detachment. What Cruise saw as discipline, Pitt saw as excess. The actors rarely interacted between takes, and when they did, the air was thick with unspoken friction. In later interviews, Pitt didn't mince words. He described the production as emotionally draining, calling the experience miserable. For Cruise, famously silent on interpersonal drama, the lack of response spoke volumes. He never addressed the conflict publicly, but Hollywood took notice. Despite both men remaining top-tier talents, they've never appeared in another film together. Not in a sequel, not in a cameo, not even in one of the many ensemble blockbusters where such pairings are common. Industry analysts call it a soft blacklist, an unspoken rule that Pitt simply wouldn't be part of any Cruise-led production again. And for someone as influential as Cruise, that quiet exclusion carries weight. To this day, the icy distance between the 2 icons remains one of Hollywood's most enduring silences. No public reconciliation, no joint interviews, nothing but decades of calculated avoidance. But while creative tension can divide co-stars, the next feud on our list struck at something far deeper: faith, motherhood, and mental health. When Tom Cruise called out actress Brooke Shields on live television, he didn't just burn a bridge, he ignited a firestorm. In 2005, Tom Cruise wasn't just promoting War of the Worlds, he was reigniting a cultural war. During a now infamous interview on NBC's Today Show, Cruise shocked viewers when he publicly criticized actress Brooke Shields for using antidepressants to cope with postpartum depression. The actor, a vocal proponent of Scientology, a religion that strongly opposes psychiatric medication, dismissed Shields' treatment as irresponsible and dangerous. The backlash was immediate and explosive. Shields, a respected figure who had bravely opened up about her struggle, responded with a scathing op-ed in the New York Times, accusing Cruise of spreading harmful misinformation and trivializing the mental health experiences of millions of women. The controversy spun out of control. Mental health professionals condemned Cruise's remarks. Fellow celebrities rallied around Shields. And for the first time in his career, Cruise, known for controlling the narrative, found himself at the center of a media firestorm he couldn't escape. The incident didn't just damage his public image, it fractured relationship. Insiders say that while Cruise eventually issued a private apology, the damage was already irreversible. Brooke Shields and Tom Cruise were never seen at the same events again. According to those close to them, they now maintain a cold, calculated distance. What was meant to be a personal belief shared in an interview turned into one of the most widely criticized moments of Cruise's career. It exposed not just the risks of crossing certain lines in Hollywood, but also the intense loyalty Cruise demands to his worldview. But the real storm was still brewing, because just weeks after the Brooke Shields fallout, Cruise found himself in yet another live television confrontation, this time with a respected news anchor. What unfolded wasn't just awkward, it became a defining moment in his public unraveling. It was supposed to be routine, another polished interview on the press tour for War of the Worlds. But what transpired between Tom Cruise and Matt Lauer on NBC's Today Show in June 2005 quickly spiraled into one of the most uncomfortable and revealing moments of Cruise's public career. The conversation began innocently enough, but when the topic turned to mental health and the use of antidepressants, Cruise grew visibly agitated. As Lauer pushed back with counterpoints, Cruise's tone sharpened. Then came the moment that would go viral before viral was even a cultural norm. Cruise leaned forward and dismissed Lauer as glib, accusing him of being uninformed and irresponsibly promoting psychiatric drugs. Millions of viewers watched in stunned silence. The exchange was raw, tense, and deeply personal. Two public figures clashing over a sensitive topic in real time. Behind the scenes, the atmosphere reportedly turned ice cold the moment the cameras stopped rolling. No handshake, no pleasantries, just silence. The fallout was swift. Cruise's once spotless media reputation took a hit, with late-night hosts and talk shows replaying the clip for laughs and criticism. While Lauer appeared to recover publicly in the years that followed, the dynamic between him and Cruise was irreparably broken. And when Lauer's own career came crashing down in 2017 amid explosive misconduct allegations, Cruise didn't offer a word, not in condemnation, not in sympathy. Insiders say his silence wasn't just absence, it was intentional. For a man who rarely speaks publicly about personal disputes, Cruise's quiet response was louder than any statement. To those familiar with his patterns, it was confirmation. Once you cross him, especially on his core beliefs, you don't get a second chance. But some take the confrontation even further. The next person on Cruise's blacklist didn't just challenge his beliefs. He turned their awkward private encounter into a national punchline. And Tom? He never laughed. Seth Rogen is known for his fearless humor, but one of his most talked about punchlines wasn't about politics or pop culture. It was about Tom Cruise. According to Rogen, what began as a seemingly casual meeting at Cruise's Beverly Hills home, arranged by director Judd Apatow, quickly turned into something far stranger. During a now widely circulated podcast interview, Rogen recalled how the meeting allegedly veered from movie talk to what felt like a high-pressure pitch for Scientology. He described the encounter as intense, awkward, and uncomfortably theatrical, as though he were caught inside a parody sketch. But it wasn't just the experience that made headlines, it was what Rogen did with it next. Rogen transformed the story into comedic gold, retelling it on podcasts, talk shows, and stand-up stages. He mimicked Cruise's hyperactive energy, joked about his fervent beliefs, and turned their private interaction into a viral routine. Audiences laughed, clips were shared across social media, but Cruise, he wasn't laughing. Sources close to the actor say he felt blindsided, not only by the public ridicule, but by what he perceived as a deep betrayal of trust. For someone as famously private and fiercely loyal as Cruise, Rogen's jokes crossed a very clear line. Since then, Rogen has continued to thrive as a comedian, director, and producer. But one thing has remained constant. He's never appeared in a Cruise-led film, never been offered a cameo, never approached for a collaboration. In an industry where even rival stars cross paths on occasion, the total absence of overlap is telling. Insiders say the door was quietly and permanently shut. But while Rogen's humor bruised Cruise's pride, the next feud took aim at something even deeper, his legacy. Because when Mickey Rourke spoke out, he didn't just critique a film, he discredited Cruise's entire career. In 2022, Tom Cruise was back on top. Top Gun, Maverick had defied pandemic-era odds, shattered box office records, and reignited faith in theatrical blockbusters. Hollywood celebrated him not just as a movie star, but as a symbol of cinema's revival. But while the industry stood and cheered, Mickey Rourke took to Piers Morgan Uncensored with a far colder perspective. With a few cutting words, Rourke dismissed the global success of Maverick and took direct aim at Cruise's career. "He's been doing the same part for 35 years, Rourke said, calling the actor's performances shallow and devoid of any real artistic risk. He scoffed, adding, "That doesn't impress me. I want to see some damn acting." It wasn't just harsh criticism, it was a direct assault on the very identity Cruise had spent decades building. For a man who risked life and limb to bring Top Gun, Maverick to the screen on his own terms, the remarks hit especially hard, but true to form, Cruise never fired back publicly. No rebuttals, no statements, just silence. Yet behind the scenes, sources say the response was swift and decisive. Rourke, once a volatile but bankable name, found the phone stopped ringing. Paramount insiders quietly made it clear he wouldn't be welcome in any Cruise-led or affiliated project. The blacklist was unofficial, but unmistakable. One veteran casting director called it career freezing in real time. Rourke had attacked more than just a film. He had insulted the mission, the persona, and the pride of one of Hollywood's most powerful figures. And in an industry built on relationships, those wounds tend to stay open. But for all the stung egos and strained professional ties, nothing compares to the fallout from Tom Cruise's most personal breakup. Because the final name on this list isn't just an actress or a colleague. She was once his entire world, until she wasn't. They were the golden couple, Hollywood royalty wrapped in red carpet elegance. Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman appeared to have it all: beauty, fame, blockbuster careers, and a love story that played out in headlines and box office hits. But in 2001, that illusion shattered. Cruise filed for divorce just days before their 10-year anniversary, a legal line in California that, if crossed, could have required a more even financial split. Whether it was strategic or coincidental, the timing was unmistakable and brutal. Nicole was blindsided. In later interviews, her grief was palpable. She spoke of believing they would grow old together, of heartbreak, of disbelief, but more than the divorce itself, it was what followed that cemented the break. Kidman, once considered a rising figure within Scientology circles, began distancing herself from the church. She reconnected with people Cruise had allegedly cut ties with, former members and critics of Scientology's inner hierarchy. For Cruise, who has remained devout and fiercely protective of the church's image, the shift was unforgivable. Their adopted children, Isabella and Connor, stayed under the church's influence and reportedly grew distant from their mother. Cruise, meanwhile, maintained strict loyalty to his beliefs, his privacy, and his version of the story. In the decades since, Cruise and Kidman have never been publicly photographed together. No red carpet reunions, no family appearances, no shared milestones. At their son's wedding, Cruise was present. Kidman was absent. Whether by choice or circumstance, the message was clear. The past had been deleted. Insiders say it wasn't just a divorce. It was a full extraction. A complete surgical removal of Nicole from Cruise's carefully curated world. And while Kidman soared, winning an Oscar, taking bold roles, and reclaiming her narrative, Cruise never looked back. Not publicly, not personally, not once. For a man known to forgive few and forget even less, the silence surrounding Nicole Kidman speaks louder than any tabloid ever could. But all these stories, from broken marriages to silent blacklists, reveal more than feuds. They hint at a deeper pattern. A man who controls his world with the same precision he brings to a stunt, down to who stays and who disappears. In Hollywood, power is often loud, measured in headlines, awards, and million-dollar deals. But Tom Cruise wields a different kind of influence. It's quiet, calculated, and often invisible until it's too late. Across decades of stardom, Cruise has cultivated a reputation not just as a megastar, but as a gatekeeper. And when he's crossed, his most potent response isn't confrontation, it's erasure. Again and again, we see a pattern. Public silence, private retaliation, no rants, no public meltdowns, just doors that quietly shut behind the scenes and careers that quietly stall. This isn't just emotional self-protection, it's strategy. Cruise has kept a tight inner circle for years, surrounding himself with loyalists, trusted collaborators, and those who respect the unspoken rules of his world. Betray that code, whether through public criticism, religious friction, or even offhand jokes, and you risk vanishing from his professional orbit. The result? A blacklist that's never confirmed, but often felt. Just ask the actors, journalists, and comedians whose careers suddenly stopped intersecting with his. The effect isn't explosive, it's surgical. Insiders describe Cruise as both intensely loyal and obsessively protective of his image. He doesn't need to raise his voice, he simply withdraws, removes you from the equation. And in an industry where associations can make or break opportunity, being frozen out by someone of Cruise's caliber has real, lasting consequences. He may not publicly shame or sue, but you won't be invited back. Not to a set, not to a premiere, not to the conversation. But what does this say about Cruise? Is it emotional resilience, professional discipline, or quiet vengeance? Some see a man drawing boundaries. Others see a star unwilling to forgive. Either way, the message is clear. In Cruise's world, silence is never just silence. It's a closing door. So what do all these stories reveal? From Brad Pitt's quiet freeze-out, to Brooke Shields' public clash, Matt Lauer's viral takedown, Seth Rogen's comedic fallout, Mickey Rourke's scorched earth critique, and Nicole Kidman's emotional erasure, each encounter pulls back the curtain on how Tom Cruise protects his world. It's not always loud, it's rarely messy, but it is absolute. He doesn't retaliate with rage, he retaliates with absence. And in a business where being seen is everything, disappearing from Cruise's orbit can mean disappearing from opportunity itself. this is more than celebrity drama. It's a portrait of power, how it's used, who controls it, and what happens when you push back against someone who's built an empire on precision, loyalty, and unshakable image management. Some call it control, others call it survival. But for Cruise, silence has always been the sharpest weapon in his arsenal. So now we ask you, who surprised you most on this list? Do you think Tom Cruise is simply protecting his peace or holding lifelong grudges that crossed the line? Was he justified or just ruthless? Drop your take in the comments below. And if you want more untold stories, hidden feuds, and insider breakdowns from the world behind the velvet curtain, hit that like button, subscribe, and don't forget to ring the bell. Because in Hollywood, even the brightest stars cast shadows, and some stories never fade.